Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Net Zero Nuclear Pavilion. Today we have a very interesting topic that we'll discuss. With me I have 5 panelists from across Africa and Sweden, fortunately, but she's also an African to some extent. So the topic that we'll be dwelling on today is the link between energy poverty and environmental pollution. Contrary to popular belief, countries that use only a small amount of energy per person are not necessarily better able to protect the environment. And electricity, especially clean electricity, can substitute for all manner of dirty fuels and overburden the natural environment for meeting the basic human needs. We will discuss the role of nuclear energy as a clean energy source to simultaneously elevate energy poverty and environmental pollution and degradation. So for this moment, I would like to thank our panelists for agreeing to come to our discussion today to give us an insightful discussion on this topic. With me, I have Robert, who is a nuclear engineering student in Moscow University. Could you tell us what is this topic means in your own geographic and economic context?
Thank you for joining us today. I'm Robert Kipto from Kenya, but I'm currently doing my master's in nuclear engineering in Moscow Physics Institute in Russia. And I'm glad to be here to join the discussion on the link between energy poverty and environmental pollution. So I'm from Kenya. Most of our energy is generated via hydro and geothermal, but a big chunk as well is generated from burning of the biomass fuel, as Patricia initially said. So our countries are close to each other, so we share a couple of things. So especially in the rural areas, people lack access to especially the clean electricity. So they are forced to go into the forest, cut down some trees, burn charcoal, maybe burn some wood as well, which in the end up messing up the environment. Of course, deforestation is very bad for the environment because the trees play a crucial role in climate thing. So in the future, we are looking at the government doing more things, especially like expanding the energy capacity so that we can be able to serve the whole country as a nation. So looking forward to the discussion and more an interactive session. So thank you guys for joining us.
So now we hear from Kenya, and in Kenya, a large proportion of your energy comes from geothermal, wind, solar, and 40% of the population still doesn't have access to energy. However, you are a student, so I think you have big dreams to solve these big issues generally. So as a nuclear engineer student, do you think the policies align with your technical training that you are receiving abroad? And what direct impact does this have on the current topic of discussion?
That's a really good question. In terms of policies, I think we can all agree that the government plays a huge role in making of these policies. And I think the government can address these issues based on maybe short-term policies and maybe long-term policies. And in terms of the short-term policies, what the government can do in my perspective, I think they can try and introduce short-term access to quick energy solutions, things like off-grid solar panels. Of course, in the rural areas, they can't have access to these, maybe the hydros, because it's not really a small country if you compare to other countries. It's such a huge country. So in the rural areas, instead of burning charcoal and maybe burning coal, they can introduce solar panels so that they can be able to make use of the solar panels instead of burning charcoal. And maybe what the government can also do is try and educate the population in the rural areas that burning of this charcoal and small fossil fuels is not good for their health. So many of those people, they don't really know what they are doing when they are maybe burning those charcoal fuels. So when the government can come in and try and educate them that, this thing is not good for your health, try and use other sources, even though they're not sustainable, they're just good for the short-term usage. And in the long term, as a nuclear engineering student, I'm hoping that the government can open its eyes and, invest in energy sources which are clean and more so sustainable. Also things like nuclear power. It produces huge amounts of power, and more so it's very clean, it's sustainable, and it's reliable. So actually in our country, if we just build one nuclear power plant, because we have huge capacities of geothermal, we have huge capacity of hydro as well, so we need to diversify our electricity grid because other sources such as hydro and geothermal, they might not be that sustainable and reliable, but with nuclear, it ticks all the boxes. When the government invests in projects such as nuclear, it can really address mainly all the challenges that we are currently facing. So I'll just urge the government to look deep into this energy poverty thing and maybe focus on investing on clean sources like nuclear energy.
We have seen in the past 2 days there has been a historic moment of tripling nuclear. Ghana and Morocco are the only African countries that pledged to this. What is your perspective on the pledge, and if it will address the energy poverty and environmental pollution in your countries and affected communities?
Speaking of the Barakah Nuclear Power Station, so actually yesterday we had an opportunity to visit the plant thanks to ENEC and of course Net Zero Nuclear Hub. Actually, the Korean guys just behind us, they're responsible for building the nuclear power plant. So it's an amazing masterpiece over there. Currently, there are 4 nuclear reactors over there, but currently 3 are running. And it's amazing how, when the whole thing will be over, it will cut down an emission of around 2.4 million grams of carbon that are being emitted in the atmosphere. So it's actually countries like Kenya and maybe Uganda who are looking into investing into nuclear power plant. They can have a look at and actually take notes to guys from UAE. It's an amazing technology. And if we introduce it to our respective countries, it can actually serve more than energy. We can use it for agricultural purposes. We can use it for health purposes, as it ticks actually all the boxes. So it's just up to our government to take notes, not just making up deals and pledges. They need to go down and, start constructing these nuclear power plants. Our country is doing a nice job. We actually have a board in place setting up the whole nuclear power plant. We're just in the final stages of carrying out the feasibility study. Then we go into now starting building the nuclear power plant, which is an amazing thing. And I'm looking forward to one day tell our stories about our country having a nuclear power plant. So thank you guys for having this conversation with us, and looking forward to having more of these conversations in the future.
Thank you so much. And we have come to the end of our discussion, and I would like to give most thanks to Net Zero Nuclear for giving us the incredible opportunity of organizing this in their pavilion. And we do not inherit our world or our earth from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children. So we should remember that, and we should make sure that we go for clean energies such that we have a sustainable, and I have a new term that I would like everyone to think of, just equitable energy transition. So let's go think about that, and then we can implement the solutions in our communities. Thank you very much.